the average worker is interrupted every 11 minutes. And then it can take up to 25 minutes to regain full focus, right? Because first you have to get traction, and then you get focus. And that takes 25 minutes after every interruption. That happens every 11 minutes? Oh my gosh. So that means that distractions aren't just minor inconveniences. They're actively derailing our ability to make progress.
You're never too busy, too tired, too old, or too anything to pursue your dreams. Welcome to the Distracted Dreamer podcast, where you'll learn how to move all those never-ending distractions aside and chase your dreams with confidence.
Hey dreamers, welcome back to another episode of The Distracted Dreamer. I'm your host and friend Carlene, and I'm so happy that you are tuning into this episode today because we're going to talk about distractions. But first, I want to check in on you. How are you doing? How are your dreams and goals? How are those unfolding for you this year? Are you feeling energized and on track? Or maybe you're feeling a little lost and frustrated? Well, I want you to know that no matter where you are right where you are meant to be. So don't get down on yourself about not being further along. And with that, I have a question for you. How are you managing distractions? Because if you're anything like me, life has a way of throwing 100 little things at you every day, pulling your focus in all different directions. And it's so easy to feel like you're just reacting to everything instead of making intentional progress. Have you ever felt that way? But what if I told you that managing distractions isn't about eliminating them? It's about not letting them control you. And today we're going to talk about how you can take back that control. So we're going to talk about 3 powerful tools to stop letting distractions control you so you get to run the show again. How does that sound? Now, before we dive into those 3 tools, let's first talk about what a distraction really is and why it matters. So a distraction is anything that pulls your attention away from what you intend to focus on. Okay, so if we're all distracted, how do we achieve the opposite of being distracted? The real question is, what is the opposite of distraction? When I ask people this, most people's answer is focus. But in reality, the opposite of distraction, if you look at the origin of the word, is traction, right? Both words come from the same Latin root trahere, which means to pull. So the opposite of distraction isn't focus, it's traction. And traction is any action that pulls you towards what you say you're going to do. Things that pull you towards your values, things that help you become the kind of person that you want to become. That's traction. Distraction is any action that pulls you away from what you want to do, away from your values, or away from becoming the kind of person that you want to be. So the opposite of distraction is traction, not focus. Focus comes after we've gained traction or reestablished traction. And here's the kicker. Our brains are wired to be distractible, right? That's what kept us alive, was being alert and looking out for all the things that we don't know are coming our way to keep ourselves safe. And so we are wired to look outside of our focus zone. And according to a study from the University of California in Irvine, the average worker is interrupted every 11 minutes. And then it can take up to 25 minutes to regain full focus, right? Because first you have to get traction, and then you get focus. And that takes 25 minutes after every interruption. That happens every 11 minutes? Oh my gosh. So that means that distractions aren't just minor inconveniences. They're actively derailing our ability to make progress. So let's think about it. How many times a day do you check your phone? Studies show that people check their phones on average 96 times a day. I don't know, this might be outdated research, but that's the research that I pulled. And that's once every 10 minutes. That sounds about right. Now, no wonder we feel like we are constantly losing traction And as a result, we can't focus. So we all know distractions, they affect our productivity, they affect our mental well-being, and our ability to pursue our great big dreams. But here's the good news. Just because distractions happen, it doesn't mean that they have to dictate your life. They don't run the show. You do. And when we learn how to work with them instead of fighting against them, we can get control over our energy and focus, and we can make progress even in a world full of distractions and interruptions. Now, all those distractions, they're not going to go away, which is why we're going to dive into 3 powerful tools that will help you manage them so you're not frustrated and exhausted at the end of the day, because that is no fun. Nobody wants to end their day like that. So by the end of the episode, you're going to see distractions in a whole new way. Does that sound good? Okay, so let's dive into the 3 tools. Tool number 1 is a mindset shift. And this is the shift. We move from, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. So let me explain this. It's February, and maybe right now you're feeling like you've already failed at your goals, and that New Year motivation, it's faded, and life threw you a few curveballs, and you're wondering, why do I even bother? If that's you, first, take a deep breath, my friend, because today we are going to flip the script. So maybe you planned to get up early and work on your project, but your dog got sick and you had to clean up the mess. Maybe you were finally heading to the gym and your car wouldn't start. Oh, so frustrating. Or maybe you completely forgot that your kid needed something for school and now you're making that unexpected run to the store. Maybe you sat down to work and suddenly your phone started blowing up with all the texts, all those group chats, right? Or maybe a neighbor stopped by unannounced just as you were getting into your workflow. Maybe you spilled coffee all over your laptop and then you had to clean that up instead of writing that email. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking, why is this happening to me? But what if we flipped it? What if this is happening for me? 2 little words. You switch out the 2 to the 4. What if this is happening for me instead of to me? So let me share a personal story with you here. In January, I was gearing up for a workshop. There was lots of planning. I had to create slides and the bonuses and the emails to write and send all that stuff out. And then, bam, I got clobbered with a horrible sinus infection. It happens to me like twice a year and it literally flattens me. We're talking steroids, antibiotics, the whole 9 yards. And the timing, it couldn't have been worse. And I was also flying out to meet my daughter for her birthday weekend. Not exactly a great time to get on a plane, but I did it. I pushed through. And we had a great weekend, but I was dragging. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I have this workshop to create and promote. I have all these emails to write, and I have complete brain fog. But looking back, I see this didn't happen to me, but it happened for me. Let me explain. You see, this whopper of a sinus infection, it forced me to slow down. You know what? I would sit down and write just 1 email instead of 3. I would sleep when I was tired. It taught me a valuable lesson that I can still get the job done even if I take baby steps and pace myself. And who would have thought I could get on a plane with this sinus infection and my head actually did not explode? I was really, really worried about that, but I was totally fine. Or that I could feel so incredibly horrible and still enjoy an amazing spa day with my daughter. I mean, it was just wonderful. And honestly, it was probably the best birthday activity we could have done with the way I was feeling. So I was very grateful for that. But also, how could I still have a great workshop launch, even though I had to slow my roll? I had a great workshop launch. It was great. And I didn't have to kill myself to do it. And I'm going to remember this lesson of slowing down, of taking care of myself, of knowing I don't have to use that stressful hustle energy to accomplish things. You see, it happened for me, not to me. I know, it's hard to find the silver lining in these moments. But what if we tried? Maybe that trip to the store gave you a much-needed conversation with your kid. Maybe that car trouble forced you to slow down and reset your schedule. Maybe your dog's unexpected mess led you to take him to the vet and you found out he had a parasite and needed medicine. Maybe that coffee spill forced you to step away from the screen and get a fresh perspective, and you wrote a killer email. Maybe the unplanned conversation with your neighbor, maybe it gave you some information that you were looking for. So here's your action item to use this mindset shift tool of it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And the biggest thing is to keep this mindset shift top of mind. So here's a few ways that you can do that. When you hit a snag, take a deep breath and ask yourself, how might this actually be helping me? You can also keep a journal where you jot down daily distractions and write down one unexpected good thing that came from them. And then finally, use the mantra. This is happening for me, not to me. Say it out loud if you have to. Write it down, put it on a Post-it note. And most importantly, on those days when you feel like nothing is going your way, remember, life isn't out to get you. All right, tool number 2. We've all heard of these before, right? One of the most powerful tools to manage distractions is setting boundaries. But let's clarify what boundaries are. Boundaries are not about keeping other people or things out. They're about keeping us where we need to be. So this metaphor always helps to remind me of that. So boundaries are like a fence around a garden. And the fence isn't there to keep people and things out. It's there to protect what's growing inside. So think of yourself as the garden, the thing growing inside the fence. You are protected from anything outside the gate. That is, unless you choose to leave your gated paradise and mingle with all the chaos that's outside of it. See, the gate allows you to choose if you're going to leave your safe fenced area and expose yourself to all the distractions. Boundaries keep us where we need to be so we don't lose traction. Boundaries help us protect our time, our energy, and focus so that we can keep chipping away at our dreams. So boundaries are for us because we can't control what others do. And trying to do that only causes a whole lot of friction. And you can always control what you do and how you respond to distractions. So here are 7 common distractions and what a boundary might look like for each. And as I'm talking through these, you might have a different boundary that you want to set for this example. The first one that we're going to talk about, because this is my number one distraction, is people constantly interrupting me. And it's not their fault. It's my fault. I let it happen in whatever form or fashion. I let it happen. And one way to manage this is to communicate a focus time to others. Use a sign on your door. Use an autoresponder on your email, or simply let them know that you'll check in after a certain time. And here's the thing. You have to stay true to this boundary. Even if someone knocks, you have to say, I'll get back at the time that I told you. You have to hold that boundary. It's your job to hold the boundary. It's not other people's job to hold the boundary. How about this one? Your phone buzzing nonstop. It's technology. You can use the technology to help you. Set your phone to do not disturb mode while working. My daughter does this. She's great at doing this. I give her so much credit, but dang, she is focused. She is focused when she is working. And you can also create app time limits or place your phone in another room when you need to have that deep focus. What about when your thoughts are pulling you away? And I honestly think that this is the biggest distraction that we have. It's not all the external stuff that's happening. I think our biggest distraction is our thoughts. So one idea is you can keep a distraction journal nearby. When an unrelated thought pops up, get out that journal and jot down the thought. and return to it later instead of letting it hijack your focus. And I know what you're thinking, Carlene, I have 100 thoughts. You want me to write those all down? I know, but there's probably a theme running through your head, or maybe not. Maybe your thoughts are all over the place. But if there's one that's really, really sticking with you, write that down so that you can get back to it later. The next big distraction that I think we have are like just emails and messages that are piling up. So instead of checking your email like 20 times a day, which I kind of do, I'm really bad at this. I need to get much, much better at this, is to set specific times during the day to check and respond to emails instead of reacting to every notification. I've turned off notifications for my emails, actually, but I still go check them. And I need to just say, you know what, I'm going to check them in the morning, and then I'm going to check them at 3 o'clock, and then I'll check them at the end of the day. But you need to have a schedule for it, because then you get sucked into everything else that's on your phone or your computer the minute you go to check your email. Which leads me to the fifth most common distraction, social media scrolling. So what's a boundary for that? Well, you can use website blockers, or you can log out of social media apps, or you can do what a lot of people are doing, and they're just deleting their social media apps because there's just a whole lot of stuff out there that's not good and is distracting us. So when you do that, you're going to reduce the temptation to check them because you can't. Okay, what about noise and background distractions? You can use some noise-canceling headphones. You can play some focus-friendly music, or you can work in a quiet space if you need to really, really concentrate. And the seventh distraction is when we overcommit to other people, to doing things for other people. That's a distraction. We have to learn to say no or not right now to requests that aren't part of your priorities for the day. So you either have to reset your priorities if you want to say yes to something, or you have to say not now. So it's your job. It's not everybody else's job. It's your job to protect your time for what truly matters. And I'm so emphatic about this because I need to work on these things. These are things that I struggle with. So I know if I'm struggling with them, I know my clients struggle with them. I know the world is just a huge distraction. We are all struggling with them. So don't beat yourself up for it. You're a work in progress. And remember, boundaries aren't rigid rules. They're flexible guidelines that help you stay on track. And the key is consistency. So the more you reinforce these boundaries, the more that you train yourself and those around you to respect your time and your energy. So here's your action item for setting boundaries for yourself. Pay attention over the next week and notice what distractions happen most frequently. Or heck, if you're like me, you probably already know what they are. So if you do, and you have identified them, set a boundary like we just talked about in these 7 examples. And write those boundaries down and then communicate them with others who need to know. So remember, this isn't about getting others to stop knocking or calling. It's about you changing the way that you respond, or if you respond at all. So you'll see that once you start consistently respecting your boundaries, others will follow. The knocking, pinging, and calling will slowly lessen over time, I promise. All right, moving on to tool number 3. It's time to plan for distractions. Now, I always love having a good plan in place because it gives me a framework for how to respond, even when I don't exactly know what is going to happen or when. And you might be thinking, but how can I plan for something if I don't know what's going to happen? And that's a fair question. So think of this tool, it's actually called the if-then technique, as a standard operating procedure. It reduces your in-the-moment stress, and it empowers you to respond calmly, and it gives you confidence knowing that you can handle distractions instead of them handling you. So this is how it works. What you do, first is you identify a common roadblock or a distraction that might derail you. Then what you're going to do is you're going to decide on a pre-planned action if that roadblock or distraction happens. So let's go through some examples here. If I get stuck late at work and I miss my workout, then I'll do a 10-minute stretch session before bed. If I have too much on my mind and feel unmotivated to write, then I'll set a timer for just 5 minutes to start. If I didn't get one of my top 3 priorities done today, then I'll move it forward and schedule it as the first thing to handle tomorrow. If my to-do list feels overwhelming, then I'll pick just one task to complete and focus only on that. Because overwhelm is distracting you guys. So if you feel overwhelmed, have a plan for that. If I get interrupted while working, then I'll take a deep breath and calmly reset for 5 minutes before jumping back in. So here's your action item. You're going to do those 2 steps. First, identify a common roadblock or distraction that might derail you, and then decide on a pre-planned action. When that happens, write down your if-then statements. These are your standard operating procedures. It's about having a backup plan, so distractions don't completely throw you off track, because they will happen. But now you'll be ready. All right, my friend, what tool resonated with you today? Is it the mindset shift from it's not happening to me, it's happening for me? Or is it understanding that boundaries are for you and not for other people? Or is it knowing that you can plan for the unexpected to keep you calm in the moment and get yourself back on track? I hope you see that it's unrealistic to think that you can eliminate all distractions. But take the time to eliminate where you can. Set boundaries for yourself, not others, boundaries for yourself, and plan for the unexpected. And if you had family or friends that could use these tools, please share this episode with them. I love spending time with you here, and thank you so much for tuning in. And your dreams are waiting for you. Your time is now, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.
Oh, and one more thing. This is the legal language. You know, the stuff that the lawyers put together, and they say that I need to read this to you. So here we go. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm just your friend. I'm not a licensed therapist. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Got it? Good. I will see you in the next episode.